I call to order the meeting of the Verona Common Council for Monday, September 11th, 2023 at 7 p.m. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Next we'll have the roll.
Alderperson Helmke.
Present.
Alderperson Hoaxed.
Present.
Alderperson Kemp.
Here.
Alderperson Kimmett. Alderperson Posey.
Here.
Alderperson Touche.
I am here.
Alderperson Tucker Long.
Here.
And Alderperson Cronin is absent and excused.
All right, that's enough people for quorum, so that's great. We'll move on to item 4, which is public comments. Any members of the public wish to speak? Now would be the time to do so.
Good evening. My name is Tony DeRosa with Fiduciary Real Estate Development. My address is 789 North Water Street in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, 53202. Thank you for the opportunity to be before you this evening. Since we were last here 2 weeks ago, we've been working very busy to work to wrap up both the annexation agreement as well as the development agreement for a multifamily development, which is on the agenda this evening. We've worked diligently with staff. The staff has made this a major priority, and I want to say thank you to the staff for putting in a very concentrated effort the last 2 weeks. We made great progress on confirming that we had adequate fire flows, which was discussed 2 weeks ago. We also came up with a pretty good and effective plan of how to deal with the water loop connection as part of finishing out the project in phase 2 of it. So thank you for that. And then our plan, just so everyone's aware, is with an approval this evening. Our plan is, or our goal is to acquire and close on the purchase of the property in about 2 weeks and start construction the very next day. Our goal is to get to phase 2 of the project in short order upon finishing phase 1. And there's continues to be really strong demand for the type of housing that we're proposing to build, and we're excited to get going. So thank you very much.
Thank you. We are still in the public comment portion of the meeting, so if anyone else wishes to speak, now would be the time to do so. Seeing no one approaching the microphone, we'll move on to item 5, which is approve the minutes from the August 28th, 2023 Common Council meeting. Questions, comments, or motions to approve? Motion by Alder Kemp. Is there a second? Seconded by Alder Tucker Long. Last chance for corrections. Seeing no hands, all those in favor of approving the minutes from the August 28th, 2023 Common Council meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And the minutes are approved. We'll move on to item 6, which is mayor's business. Don't have anything for you, so we'll move on to item 7, which is announcements. Any announcements from the council? Seeing no hands, we will move on to item 8, which is administrator's report. Mr. Olick.
Thank you, Mayor. Last 2 weeks have been intensely working with developers. So trying to get the fiduciary agreement and annexation knocked out. A little bit of Arden Glen thrown in there. Also Avalon Ridge. So it's been pretty intense on the developer front the last couple of weeks, but I think we're in a much better place than we were and ready to move forward. So that's really my report tonight, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Olick? Seeing none, we'll move on to item 9, engineer's report. Ms. Fisher.
Thank you. For the County PD Auxiliary Lane Turn Lane Extension Project, I wanted to note that the overhead sign bridges are installed and that signals at the intersection of PD and Woods Road are expected to be installed and active late this fall. And then for the Wayland Road project, I wanted to note that that road is open to traffic and there are a few punch list items remaining. I did want to note that we did install stop signs, so appreciate the input from Beth, and our traffic engineer liked that idea, and those were installed as part of the project. So if you drive through, you'll see all that. With that, I can take any questions.
Any questions on the engineer's report? Alder Kimmett, and then myself.
No questions, just a comment. I used the stop signs and they were great. I don't feel like I'm putting everyone in danger when I pull out there.
Hey, progress. I was looking through the engineer's report, and there's entries for Whispering Coves Phase 1 and Phase 2. Where are we at with that?
So for Phase 1, the latest that I have heard, and I work with the engineer, so right now we're reviewing Phase 2. They're looking at that schedule potentially in the spring, it sounds like. And they would like to get Phase 1 wrapped up this fall, is what I've heard. So I don't really have any more information than that. I don't know, Jamie, if you have any other information, but yeah, that's what I know.
Thank you. No, I just, it seemed like there's maybe progress. I had someone ask me about it because some of their friends want to buy houses in the city, and gosh, there's land set aside for single-family homes, and nothing seems to be happening, so it's frustrating, but thank you for the update. Any other questions on the engineer's report? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to item 10, committee reports. First up, we have Finance Committee. Alder Kemp.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, I'd like to make a motion for the payment of the bills in the amount of $988,787.91.
Motion by Alder Kemp. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Alder Helmke. Alder Kemp.
Yes, first, we had a payment of $688,303 to Krupp Contractors for the Century School Park, a payment of $66,715 to the Madison Metro Sewage District for the Arden Glen Phase 1 extension, and a payment of $45,944 to JT Engineering for engineering services.
Thank you for that explanation. Questions or comments on the motion to pay the bills? Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of paying the bills the amount specified, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no? And that motion passes. Anything further from Finance?
Nothing further. Thank you.
Excellent. We will move on to 10B, which is Plan Commission. Alder Posey.
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to approve ordinance number 23-1030, zoning map amendment to rezone approximately 439 acres to suburban industrial located at 1979 Milky Way.
Motion by Alder Posey. Is there a second? Seconded by Alder Hoax. Alder Posey.
The Plan Commission held the required public hearing on September 5th, 2023, with no comments from the public. The Plan Commission voted 7-0 to recommend the Common Council approve the request to rezone approximately 439 acres to suburban industrial per the map in the packet.
Thank you for that explanation. Questions or comments on the motion? Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of approving ordinance number 23-1030, zoning map amendment to rezone approximately 439 acres to suburban industrial located at 1979 Milky Way, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no? And that motion passes. Alder Posey.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution number 23-023, approving the expansion of the Verona Urban Service Area to include approximately 262 acres of land located at 1979 Milky Way.
Motion by Alder Posey. Is there a second? Second by Alder Tucker Long. Alder Posey.
The Plan Commission discussed the USA on September 5th, 2023. Comments from the Plan Commission included clarification that all land proposed for the USA is within the city of Verona, which is correct. The Plan Commission voted 7-0 to recommend the Common Council approve a resolution to add approximately 262 acres of land located at 1979 Milky Way to the city of Verona's USA.
Thank you for the explanation. Questions or comments on this motion? Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of resolution number 23-023, approving the expansion of the Verona Urban Service Area to include approximately 262 acres of land located in 1979 Milky Way, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no? And that motion passes. Alder Posey.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution number 23-024, approving a conditional use permit to allow a child daycare facility located at 301 Prairie Heights Drive.
Motion by Alder Posey. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alder Kemp. Alder Posey.
The Plan Commission held the required public hearing on August 7th, 2023. Comments from the Plan Commission include questions regarding the playground location and if there are other child daycares near a highway. The Plan Commission voted 5-0 to recommend the Common Council approve a conditional use permit to allow a group daycare center plus 9 persons land use at 301 Prairie Heights Drive.
Thank you for the explanation. Questions or comments on this motion? Alder Posey and then myself.
I know I shared this at Plan Commission, but I just wanted to say this again. This was definitely a process to finalize things for this property, and I want to commend the applicant as well as the staff for doing some good work on coming up with a good, safe determination of a solution to some safety concerns that I know I shared with a number of others, but I appreciate the work that everybody put into this.
I'm just going to kind of echo what Alder Posey said. I really appreciate the applicant working through the issues with staff, and I appreciate the people on Planning Commission providing the kind of feedback to make sure that the site was safe, considering its location next to the highway. Other questions or comments? Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of approving resolution number 23-024, approving a conditional use permit to allow a child daycare facility located at 301 Prairie Heights Drive, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And that motion passes. Anything further from Plan Commission?
Nothing further.
Excellent. We will move on to 10C, which is the Joint City-Town Planning Committee. Who's taking this one? Oh, I guess I could. If you give me a moment. All right. I can't make the motion, but I will describe it. So this is a discussion and possible action regarding resolution number 23-025, approving the certified survey map located at 7648 County Highway PD. This was discussed by the Joint City-Town Planning Committee regarding the certified survey map on August 31st, 2023, and it was voted 6-0 to approve the certified survey map for one lot located at 7648 County Highway PD. This is right across from the Verona Town Hall, and it's my understanding that part of the property is being carved off so the gentleman can continue to live there, and the rest of it is being sold to a healthcare software company in Verona. Any questions, comments, or motions on this item? Alder Kemp.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 23-025, approving the certified survey map located at 7648 County Highway PD.
Motion by Alder Kemp. Is there a second? Second by Alder Touche, I think. Motion before the body. Questions or comments on the motion? Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of approving resolution number 23-025, approving the certified survey map located at 7648 County Highway PD, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And that motion passes. We'll move on to 10D, which is Public Safety and Welfare Committee. Alder Host.
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion approving a special event permit application and temporary Class B fermented malt beverage and Class B wine license from Lee Jordan, Verona Area Chamber of Commerce for Fall Fest on October 6th to October 7th, 2023.
Motion by Alder Host, second by Alder Touche. Alder Host.
Thank you. Fall Fest is taking place at Festival Park. Friday night activities include hay rides, pumpkin carving, a petting zoo, an outdoor movie, farmers market, food trucks, and a beer tent. The chamber is planning to erect a fence to encompass the entire event so beer can be taken out of the beer tent, but also serve as a border to prevent beer leaving the premises. Saturday, there will be a tailgate party for the Badger game. Attendees of the tailgate party must be at least 21 years old. As part of the event, there will be TVs showing the football game, a beer tent, food trucks, and games. Staff recommend approval contingent upon final inspection of the fire pits by the fire department and issuance of operator licenses for the event.
Motion before the body. Questions or comments on the motion? Alder Posey.
I know that there was an extension of the beer area for Hometown Days. Were there any issues? And I don't know, Chief, if you want to.
Chief Dresser? If you know.
Sorry to put you on the spot, but it was our first time really expanding that, and I'm curious if we have ran into any issues.
Yeah, for hometown days, absolutely, no problems at all.
Okay.
Sorry if I missed this, but was the original motion contingent upon final inspection of the fire pits by the fire department and issuance of operator licenses?
That is correct, sir.
Okay. All right, and it's understanding the second. Any other discussion on this topic? Seeing no further discussion, All those in favor of approving the special event permit application and temporary Class B fermented malt beverage and Class B wine license from Lee Jordan, Verona Area Chamber of Commerce for the Fall Fest on October 2nd, 2023 and October 7th, 2023, contingent upon the final inspection of the fire pits by the fire department and the issuance of operator licenses for the event, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And that motion passes. Alder, anything further from Public Safety?
Nothing further, thank you.
Thank you. We will move on to 10E, which is Public Works, Sewer, and Water Committee. Alder Touche.
Thank you. Item E, 10E1, I make an motion to approve an agreement with AECom for design and engineering services for the intersection of Legion Street and West Verona Avenue, not to exceed $231,759.
Motion by Alder Touche. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alder Humke. Alder Touche.
As part of the ongoing redevelopment along West Verona Avenue, improvements are planned in 2024 for the intersection of West Verona Avenue and Legion Street to include lane configuration, traffic signal installation, infrastructure for pedestrians, improvements, and engineering services will be expensed to TID 9, including the design engineering services agreement provided by AECom. Staff recommends authorizing and the execution of the provided design and engineering services agreement with AECom. Thank you.
Thank you. You've heard the explanation. Any questions or comments on this motion? Alder Humke.
Sorry. Just want to make a comment that living in District 2, representing that district, I do receive quite a few complaints about the increase in traffic and the ability to cross the street in this and other areas, and I'm just really grateful for the Public Works Department that they are looking for ways to make this a safer for pedestrians and cars.
Other questions or comments on the motion? Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of approving the agreement with AECom for design engineering services for the intersection of Legion Street and West Verona Avenue in the amount specified signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, no. And that motion passes. Anything further from Public Works?
That is all for tonight.
Excellent, thank you. With that, we move on to 11, which is new business. I'm going to ask for unanimous consent to take care of item 3 real quick, if that's okay with everyone, because I think we can do that in open session. Okay, we'll move on to item 3, which is a discussion of possible action regarding the development agreement with Cascade Development LLC, West Madison Bible Church, Psalm Partners 4 LLC, and Psalm Partners 5 LLC. Mr. Aulick.
Thank you, Mayor. The developer, at their request, has decided to postpone this for 2 more weeks. So we're working through a couple of minor issues, and they would just like to postpone it, and we'll discuss it and possibly approve it on the 25th.
So any questions or comments on this one? No. It wouldn't even have been on the agenda, but it was canceled like today, so. All right, I said it would be quick, and that one's already done. So we'll go back to the schedule. We'll go to 11.1, which is a discussion and possible action regarding mediation and potential litigation with the town of Verona. Mr. Kleinmeyer, can we take both sessions?
Well, I was just going to say, it may be the case that item 2, you may decide that you don't need to go into closed session on the fiduciary agreements. I think at a staff level, we're certainly willing to start the discussion on the annexation and the Phase 1 agreement, and depending on how you want to proceed, it may be that closed session is not necessary.
Gotcha. Okay, well then I would ask for unanimous consent to skip item 1 again and go to item 2 because it'll be faster. All right, great. We'll move on to item 2, which is a discussion and possible action regarding the annexation agreement and Phase 1 development agreement with Fred-Verona HC LLC pertaining to land adjacent to County Highway PD. Mr. Kleinmeyer.
So, thank you, Mayor. This agreement was before you previously, and now, as the individual during public comment noted, and as Jamie noted, I think we made a lot of progress over the last 2 weeks, and that's why we have 2 separate agreements. The developer is here, including their attorney, Mr. Cole, to potentially answer any questions, which may be one of the benefits of remaining in open session, because you can ask questions of the developer in open session, but not in closed session. Let me address the annexation agreement first. And I think really, unless Bill has something, I think the only issue really on the annexation agreement is If you look at your packet, and I'm sorry, I don't know exact page within the packet, but on page 7 of the annexation agreement, we have some redlined language regarding water looping. And as you all know, we had discussions about this with the council at the last meeting, and obviously a lot of discussions with the developer on this topic, which led to the redlined language. I guess, though, before I get to that, I wasn't sure if we wanted to talk about the fire flow issue and just the information that we've learned over the last 2 weeks on that before we get to water looping.
I think if it's straightforward, the fire flow stuff would make sense to handle right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we talked a little bit about how the modeling was showing less fire flows than what the typical land use would require. So we went back and worked through with the developer and the engineer. We got actual sprinkler requirements for their buildings, and we're able to take the modeled fire flow minus their sprinkler flow and confirm with the fire department that what was remaining would be adequate for that first phase. So we worked through that process over the last couple of weeks.
Any questions on water flow in regards to fire protection or comments? Alder Posey.
I'll just comment, thank you so much for doing that, because that was a really big concern of ours, and I'm just kind of in the wow science moment. So thank you all for doing that.
Other questions or comments on the fire flow? All right, I guess back to the red line, Mr. Clemmer.
So, yes, so on page 7, in light of kind of the resolution of the fire flow issue that we all know, at a staff level, we knew it was very significant to the council, there's also the water looping issue. And so we left the red line language in because we think it's going to help kind of walk us through this discussion with you. And I think at the start, I believe I'm speak for staff and Carla and myself that we support the concept that is in the agreement. And if you do too, then we would be in a position to move forward with the annexation agreement subject to, final review and approval by the city administrator and city attorney. But essentially, what we have on the fire flow issue, and what we talked about before is whenever we have development, at some point in time in the future, we want to make sure that that development has water looping to assist and protect the residents who live there. And so what the new language talks about is, and I should say, we typically, I don't recall any instance where we require the water looping at the start of the development. It's always at the end of the development where we want to make sure that it exists. For this development, we're anticipating 2 phases. And so phase 1 would just move forward without the water looping. But the language that has been added to the agreement talks about 2 different scenarios. So either within 5 years after the issuance of an occupancy permit for phase 1 of the development, or at the time that the developer wants to go ahead with phase 2. So whichever of those is earlier, that's when the water looping is going to have to be completed. And the new language, the developer, one of the scenarios is the developer is able to work things out with an adjacent landowner that allows for the water looping to come through the adjacent landowner's property, and it gets completed, and quite frankly, the city doesn't even play a role because that happens, and that's the way that we would like it to happen. But if that does not occur, and there's a scenario where there can be water looping. And now, so this development is adjacent to County Highway PD. The south side of the development abuts the Whispering Coves plat. And then if you go even further south from that, that's where we have the Kettle Creek North plat. And there's a road that essentially runs, and if I misstate anything, Carla, let me know. There's a road that essentially runs from what would be the fiduciary development all the way to the Kettle Creek North plat, so through the Whispering Coves plat, called Harvest Moon Trail, I believe. And Mayor Diaz had asked a question about the Whispering Coves development as part of the engineering report. And I think that we have a hope and an expectation that as part of Phase 1 gets completed for Whispering Coves, and then Phase 2 gets completed from Whispering Coves. And if that happens, we're really not going to have an issue here, because fiduciary is going to be able to hook its water main into the portion of Harvest Moon Road that essentially connects the fiduciary plat with the Whispering Coves plat. And the water main that's in Whispering Coves plat would already be to the southern edge of the plat connecting with Kettle Creek North. We have a water loop and there's no issue. The issue becomes what happens if the Whispering Coves plat stalls. And keep in mind that we have a plat that's been recorded. So today, right now, if the city wanted to put a water main in Harvest Moon Trail from where the southern edge of the Whispering Coves plat, where Kettle Creek North is located, to the northern edge of the Whispering Coves plat, where fiduciary would be located, we would have the right to do that. Now, in the past, we have not taken that step, in part because the most recent example I can think of, a developer asked us to essentially do something of that nature, and the developer for whom there was already a plat recorded said, slow down, wait a second, we've been developing our land on a consistent and timely basis from a phasing standpoint. And the land that you're looking at right now to potentially put a water main in City of Verona, we may need to replat that land because we're not there yet. I think they were having some discussions with the school district on something that may happen there. And so the city said, okay, you've been proceeding in a timely fashion with your phases, and there is the possibility that you may need to replat that land, so we're not going to get involved in this issue between the two developers. I think the scenario that we're talking about now is a little bit different with Whispering Coves. One, there's a hope that the development occurs in a timely fashion, in which case, like I said before, there's no issue whatsoever. But if for some reason Whispering Coves were to stall, first of all, my understanding is for phase one of the improvement, for phase one of the Whispering Coves development, approximately 85 to 90% of the water facilities are already in the ground. So those aren't moving. And because those aren't moving, in all likelihood, the location of Harvest Moon Trail is never going to be relocated. So we're already different from the scenario the other scenario I mentioned where there's the potential for a replat. There really isn't, at least in this area. The other thing is, for the other developer that said, hey, slow down, we don't want you to put a water main in our plat, that development had been moving in a timely fashion. Again, we hope and anticipate that Whispering Coves will move in a timely fashion, such this is not an issue. But if, let's say, we're 3 years down the road, and for whatever reason Whispering Coves has not proceeded, and this fiduciary has completed their phase one, and now they want to go ahead with phase two, again, we have a different scenario. Whispering Coves would not have proceeded in a timely fashion under that circumstance, whereas the other developer was timely proceeding. So I give you all that background because the language here, it says on page 7, or at least if it's accepted by the council, here's what would happen. Either fiduciary is going to do the water main loop either within 5 years of the occupancy permits being issued for phase one, or when they want to go ahead with phase two. If we get to that point and Whispering Coves has not proceeded, the city is going to have the ability to say, okay, this is our land on the plat because it's a right-of-way. We authorize you to put the water main in there. And that then would connect from the fiduciary land to the Kettle Creek North land, allowing for the water loop to move forward. The issue for the council is that's built into this agreement. In other words, that contingency, if we get to the point where fiduciary is ready to go ahead with phase two, under the current language, again, that staff supports, we would agree that they could go in and essentially make that water looping connection from their land through the Whispering Coves plat to the Kettle Creek North land. And if the council is okay with that, then the way that the language drafted is very straightforward, and staff supports it, and I guess that's essentially the question for the council. If you're okay with that possibility, and I'm reiterating this, we hope that never occurs. We hope that Whispering Coves moves ahead in a timely fashion, in which case the water main's already going to be there, and all of this language effectively becomes unnecessary. But that's the scenario that we're dealing with, and I think from a staff level, we feel comfortable with it, and that's why we're willing to bring the agreement back to you tonight.
I just want to say, I'm pretty sure we can have all of this discussion in open session. So anyways, questions, comments, or motions on this item? Alder Kemp.
I'll make a comment. I think First of all, I just want to thank staff for working on this. We talked at length about this issue. I think that, you're basically preparing for the worst-case scenario, and so I don't see any reason why we shouldn't move forward with this at this point.
Other questions or comments or motions? Alder Posey.
Just a question on, so would it just be the install of the water main, or would we be talking about building a road as well over the main? How would that step work?
At this point, it would just be the installation of the water main.
Okay.
But it would be done, my understanding is that can be done from an engineering standpoint that is deep enough that even if a road is not there, the water main is still protected.
Perfect, thank you.
Other questions or comments?
If I make one, to the extent that a motion is made, the recommended motion from staff is motion to approve the annexation agreement subject to final review and approval by city administrator and city attorney. There's, I would say, even within that language on page 7, there's a couple of blanks that we need to fill in, but we wouldn't change the concept in any substantive way.
Any other questions, comments, or motions? Alder Kemp.
I'll make the motion to approve annexation agreement and Phase 1 development agreement with Fred Verona HC LLC pertaining to the land adjacent to County Highway PD subject. Go ahead.
We haven't gotten to the phase. I mean, I'm sure,
Okay.
if you all want us to talk about the phase 1 agreement and you're willing to make a motion that applies to 2, both of them, we can do that.
Yeah, he doesn't have 2 here, so I didn't see that. So it's for Phase 2?
So the agreement that we've talked about today, to this point, is the annexation agreement. If you'd like, I'm certainly willing to talk about the Phase 1 agreement, and then if the council wants to make a single motion, we can do that.
Do you want to?
Yeah.
Let's do that.
Okay. So, as has happened before, at times with certain developments, we've definitely brought annexation agreements at the same time as a Phase 1 agreement for the developments. In this case, we have a Phase 1 development agreement that is what I would call our standard public improvements language. Staff recommends approval of this. We have the same effective, I guess if it's going to be the same motion, the Phase 1 agreement, we would also want it subject to final review and approval by the city administrator and city attorney. I think that, we need to tighten up, we need to work on some of the exhibits, but I think the exhibits are consistent with what we've done in the past. The one thing that I would note, and again, staff supports this because we recently did this with a development on West Verona Avenue, is for a residential subdivision agreement, we always require that the public improvements be completed before any building permits be issued, because you usually have separate parties that are working on it. Here, like we did with if you recall, for the Steve Brown Apartments project on West Verona Avenue, there was a public improvements agreement associated with that. We did in that circumstance, because it was a little bit different than a residential subdivision public improvements agreement, incorporate language that allowed building permits and so private building construction to run concurrently with the public improvements. But the critical language for the city is no occupancy permits will be issued until the public improvements are completed. So the developer is obviously motivated to get the public improvements completed and accepted by the city, because they're not going to be able to put anybody in their building before that happens. We took the language from the Steve Brown Apartments agreement and inserted it in here, and I just wanted to highlight that for you. Again, though, staff supports that.
Other questions or comments or motions? Alder Kemp.
Okay, I guess I'll go ahead now then. I'll make a motion recommending approval of the annexation agreement and Phase 1 development agreement with Fred Verona HC LLC pertaining to land adjacent to County Highway D, PD, subject to both review and approval by the city attorney and city administrator.
Motion by Alder Kemp. Is there a second? Second by Alder Tucker Long. Motion before the body. Questions or comments on the motion? I'll just make one quick comment. I really appreciate the insertion in regard to the water looping of a contingency plan, because I will note that Mr. Kleinmeyer was quite careful to say he hoped the project would get finished as far as Whispering Coves go. But it's something, when I used to work at Epic, I learned that hope is not a plan. And so it's good that we have a backup plan for if and or when Whispering Coves doesn't get done. But yeah, any other questions or comments on the motion? Seeing no further discussion, All those in favor of approving the annexation agreement and Phase 1 development agreement with Fred-Verona HC-LLC pertaining to land adjacent to County Highway PD, contingent upon final review and approval by the city attorney and the city administrator, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no? And that motion passes. Next, we will move back, finally, to 11.1, which is a discussion and possible action regarding the mediation and potential litigation with the town of Verona. Mr. Clemmer, is there anything in open session for this one?
I think just, obviously the parties have had some ongoing negotiations, and the ball is back in the Common Council's court, and staff does recommend convening into closed session to have that discussion.
With that, I would entertain a motion to go into closed session. Commissioner, or Alder Tucker Long.
Okay. I move that we convene in closed session to discuss the mediation and potential litigation with the town of Verona. The Common Council may convene in closed session as authorized by Wisconsin Statute 19.85 sub 1 sub G for the purpose of conferring with legal counsel for the city who is rendering oral advice concerning strategy to be adopted by the city with respect to litigation in which it is or is likely to become involved. The Common Council may reconvene in open session to discuss and take action on the subject matter discussed in the closed session.
Motion by Alder Tucker Long. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded, I think Alder Kimmett had it, maybe. This is, of course, a roll call vote. If Clerk Lick would be so kind as to read the roll.
Alderperson Helmke,
Here.
Alderperson Hoax,
Aye.
Alderperson Kemp,
Aye.
Alderperson Kimmett, Alderperson Posey.
Aye.
I assume your hears meant ayes. Okay. Alderperson Touche. I'm paying attention. And Alderperson Tucker Long.
Aye.
All right, that's enough. We will go into closed session as soon as the doors are closed. Oh, shoot, that was fast. All right, it is 8, yeah, we're back. It's 8:17, we're back in open session. No additional news to report at the moment. We might have something at the next meeting.
I move to adjourn.
Motion by Alder Shea to adjourn, is there a second? Seconded by Alder Halke. All those in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And we adjourned at 8:17 PM. Thank you, everyone.